Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Michael Weir. I'm a CMMC registered practitioner and a technical marketing engineer for cybersecurity here at Ingram Micro. I'm here today to talk to you about some CMMC concepts I call CUI-Centric security. Here's the agenda for today. First, we're going to talk about CMMC and CUI, Controlled Unclassified Information. We're going to talk about what CUI-Centric security really is, how to start thinking CUI-Centric, how to make a CUI-Centric topology, and conclusion. Also, quick shout out to PKWARE for helping with some of the conceptual things behind this video. First, CMMC and CUI. So quick definitions for anybody who doesn't know, though I assume you do if you're watching this video. CMMC is concerned with two things, FCI and CUI. FCI is federal contract information, CUI is controlled unclassified information, and CMMC itself is based on protecting FCI and CUI. For the purposes of this video, we're going to look at CMMC levels 2 and 3, where we're looking at specifically securing CUI. What I mean to say with all this, though, is that the CMMC framework is meant specifically to secure data. It's not about securing networks or environments, which are, those are components inside of it. But the main thing about it is trying to secure data. So here's some notes on what CUI-centric security would really be. Traditional security is based around the network. We think about networking security. CUI-centric security is based around the data, not the network. So instead of looking at edges as we would in traditional networking security, we're going to look at data in order to make our networking security topology. So how do we start being CUI-centric? It's a sort of a mindset thing. First, we need to locate our data, say where is the data in our environment, or where is the data going to be in the environment if we haven't built out the environment yet. Then we need to identify and classify it, to identify the paths to the data, to identify the paths of the data, to apply protection or encryption right on the data, and then to control the access to the data. Few notes on this. When we're talking about paths to the data, that may sound like network routing or network edges, but we're a little bit different on that. And also paths to the data might sound a little bit like network routing. Once again, we're a little bit different. And then protection or encryption right on the data, that may sound similar to file or folder encryption, but once again, we're talking about something just a little bit different, and of course controlling access to the data, that's the same pretty much on whatever you're looking at. So, potential CUI-centric topologies. Here is what I put together for a very, very simple router on a stick traditional network topology. So we've got a number of different things in here. We've got some wireless devices, mobile devices. We've got a LAN. We've got a switch, a router, access to the web, of course, some cloud usage, some web apps, and somebody connecting via VPN. Now, in a traditional networking topology, the things you're looking at to secure are specifically the networking piece of it, the Wi-Fi, the switching, the routing, and the connections to the web. In this case, specifically the Wi-Fi, the LAN access, the WAN access, cloud web apps, and VPN. So traditionally, as we're looking at these things that we need to secure, we're looking at them as edges. Now, of course, the sense of a network edge is a place where something or someone is connecting to the network. And if we're looking purely at protecting our network edges, this is the kind of technology we're looking at. We're looking at wireless intrusion prevention systems. We're looking at network access control. We're looking at a network firewall or an advanced threat protection device. We're talking about a cloud-based NGFW, unless you're using a SaaS there, in which case that's not applicable. A web application firewall for the apps, and of course VPN for the person VPNing in. So it's a very network-focused topology. It's looking at entry points to the network and making sure that things can't get into the network. And while that's a totally valid way to build a network, if we want to think about CUI-centric, we've got to think about the topology differently. So obviously this is the identical topology of stuff. But I want to look at it in a different way. Instead of looking at, the LAN and the WAN and that sort of thing, I want to look at the devices containing information. So the mobile devices, the servers and the PCs inside the LAN, the cloud, the web application, of course, the person who's connecting via VPN. So instead of looking at edges, we're looking at device data, whether it be on a cloud, on a web app, or literally in a device. So instead of those red dotted lines we had previously for edges, now we just have these red marks for the things containing data. So how are we going to secure the data? Well, the first thing we have to do is figure out what it is, and to a certain extent where it is. We have to classify it, and then encrypt or mask it as necessary. Encryption or masking could be like redacting in different mode of speaking. We got to figure out what is there, what is the CUI. We have to protect the CUI with encryption and decide who can see what amount of CUI, if any of it at all. So we've got our data identified. Once the data is identified, we need to make sure it's only going where we want it to. So then we put in a layer of data loss prevention. Say, okay, the data is here, it's masked, it's encrypted. Let's make sure it stays where it needs to and nothing leaves that isn't supposed to leave. Now, I am going to say even in a CUI-centric topology, you can't deny the fact that there are edges. We do have to have some edge control in here. However, edge control looks different conceptually speaking because we're looking at the data side of things and accessing the data. Our edges are more about zero trust access than they are anything else, saying nothing is trusted to access this data until we've proven it is good to access this data. ZTA is similar to ZTNA, zero trust networking access, except in this case we're talking about any kind of access. And we're talking about zero trust access to the network and to any of these stores of data. So the way to protect them becomes a little different too. So instead of looking at wireless intrusion prevention or something along those lines, we're looking at network access control. As I mentioned, ZTNA as being a portion of ZTA. We're saying what can get to these devices to even access the data that's there. Of course, a firewall is a firewall. That's always going to be there. And then speaking to our cloud stuff, we're also looking at things that can perform data loss prevention, such as instead of just a cloud firewall, we're looking at a cloud access security broker or a cloud workload protection, something that protects against threats in the data, access to the data, and data being lost. You can do that inside your average WAF solution, so that stays the same. And for our roaming user, we could look at VPN, but we're also probably looking at SASE, because SASE can also include data loss prevention right on the device, as well as secure connectivity to wherever you go. So this was totally quick. I know we blew through it in way less time than you probably wanted to spend on it. I'm just trying to realign your mindset and get you to think. I'm not trying to tell you what to think yet. But here's a little conclusion to all this. CMMC, as I said before, is a data control standard. Traditional network security looks at edges. CUI-centric security looks at data. And because the CMMC is a data security-based standard, CUI-centric security is more appropriate for CMMC. Any questions, problems, concerns, issues you wish to raise? Here are some contacts. Ingram Micro has a cybersecurity playbook where you can look at current trends and topics and find some links to help out. Ingram Micro also has a cybersecurity tech force, of which I'm a member. You can reach them at cybersecurity@ingrammicro.com. And of course, I'm the tech force framework specialist, michael.weir@ingrammicro.com. Feel free to contact me at any time. We're all here to help you and make sure you get what you need to succeed. And don't forget to realize the promise of technology. Thank you very much and have a good day.